Hello, and a very good afternoon to everyone that has joined us today. Welcome to our Charity Digital webinar on a complete guide to volunteering. I'm Liz Carter, your host for today and account manager for our Digital email marketing non-for-profit product. Now, today's webinar is one that is close to my heart, as I've been a volunteer during many years of my life. And as you all know, this is the backbone of the charity sector, an essential element also, and it can be tricky business too. Our presenter today is my amazing colleague, Alice Roche, Head of Operations at Charity Digital. And before Alice delves into the depths of volunteering, I'm going to just briefly go over some house rules for you. At the end of Alice's presentation, we'll answer your questions. So please feel free to drop these in as we go along in the Q&A section, or you can do so at the end. You can also vote for a question that you like and you feel that's relevant to you with a thumbs up, and closed captions are available, and you can turn these on by clicking on the CC closed caption button to show the subtitles. We are recording the session, and this recording will be available along with the slides and with helpful resources, and we will email you to let you know when these are ready. Please do feel free to use the chat function during the webinar too. Feel free to share with us any tips, challenges, or any experiences you've got relating to this topic. And it's also such a great way for us all to learn from each other. And also let us know from which organisation you're joining us from too. So Alice, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to you, and I'm going to turn my camera and audio off now. Welcome, Alice. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction, Liz, and welcome all. I'm seeing all of the chats come through with where you're all from, so thank you for engaging. Seems like there's some lots of us here today. So my name is Alice Roche, and as Liz said, I am the Head of Operations here at Charity Digital. There are some fun obligatory facts about me on the screen. They were obligatory. I thought a photo of my cat was more captivating than any selfie that I could produce. So moving on to the next slide, what does a head of operations do? You're probably not asking, but for those curious, I look after our e-commerce, our training, and our customer service. I am proud to say that our team helps charities registered with us get access to discounted and donated tech through our extensive catalogue. With major global technology partners like Microsoft, Adobe, Google, Charity Digital have helped over 68,000 organisations accelerate their missions through using digital technology, while saving the sector over 260 million in costs. I'm always proud of the impactful and brilliant work that Charity Digital do, but that's not what this is about today. So I don't want to take up any more time here. So please do check out our website if you're interested in learning more about what we do, which I popped up on the screen for you there. So we have a variety of topics that we're going to talk through today, including a subject that feels like it's really been in the spotlight, which is volunteer management systems. I wonder how many people are here just to learn more about those. So hopefully you've had a chance to take in our agenda and what we've got planned today. And I can see lots of people still introducing themselves, which is brilliant, great to see. So the definition of volunteering, quite self-explanatory. Volunteering is well established in the UK and across the world, with many charities and non-profit organisations relying on the work of volunteers to meet the need of users and the demands of their communities. Charities depend on volunteers for various tasks, ranging from picking up litter to intensive coding, from conservation efforts through to providing legal advice. On the screen now are some of the most common tasks that volunteers perform across the world. Although this is not an exhaustive list, I would be surprised if any such thing existed, because essentially volunteering can include just about anything and everything as long as it benefits other people. So let's go through the benefits for the organisations. So a report from the NCVO found that 16.3 million people in the UK had formally volunteered at least once during 2020 to 2021. I was staggered at that. It's good to know that so many people felt inspired to do so, and they weren't just baking banana bread. So let's talk through some of those benefits. Of course, we can reduce costs by using volunteers. Charities are seldom able to afford full-time employees to complete the tasks, so choosing to use volunteers is a great way of reducing costs. Volunteers can also improve service delivery. They offer unique skills that enhance the service, often coming up with ways to streamline processes, boost efficiency, and innovate. There are many different skills that volunteers can bring to a charity. For example, in-house staff may struggle with coding, and the charity cannot afford to hire someone to complete the task. Software developers, as we know, can be very, very expensive, so volunteers are able to fill these gaps. Charities are increasingly relying on volunteers for projects that require specialist skills. Volunteers can extend the geographical reach of many charities just by living in different areas, and fundraising efforts from volunteers often allow charities to reach new people. Last but not least, volunteers can help charities by introducing new ideas. They can give new opinions and new ways of working to charities. They can bring fresh perspectives, and they help charities to adapt, to stay relevant, and keep up with the latest developments. So the benefits of volunteers, well, I'd like to think it's quite obvious. However, I do want to draw your attention to the last point on the screen now: physical and well-being improvement. According to the Royal Voluntary Service, more than 80% of volunteers say that they have improved their mental and sense of well-being. A 2008 study from the London School of Economics found that the more people volunteered, the happier they became. In addition, a 2013 study from United Health Group and the Optum Institute revealed that of more than 3,300 adults, 76% said volunteering made them feel physically better. Well, we are all trying to constantly improve our physical and mental well-being, so I thought that was a really, really interesting point to talk about. So now that we know all of this and we know all of the benefits, how can we attract them? How can we attract and recruit volunteers? So we can partner with local businesses, schools, and other community organisations. By working together with local organisations, you can tap into their networks to reach a wider pool of potential volunteers. For example, a charity that provides meals to people could partner with a local religious organisation to create a community food drive. So those who help take part should then be approached and engaged for recruitment opportunities that fit their lifestyle. Another great one is utilising social media, which is becoming increasingly relied upon for businesses and organisations. Encouraging all volunteers to post on their social media when they help in volunteer capacities. Be frank with them too and tell them that you're always looking for more help, and provide them with a link to a website page that they can then share to their friends, who then comment and message about their posted volunteering opportunities. You should also be, as an organisation, producing content yourself, with the permission from the volunteers, of course, and post them to your own socials. When doing so, you can tag them, and then they can reshare that post to their socials to help reach a farther, wider network of their friends. Find influencers who have an affinity for your cause and ask them to help support you by sharing their volunteering opportunities. Ideally, these should be local-based volunteers, but if you're looking for digital campaign volunteers, this doesn't apply. So it really does just depend on your needs. For local volunteering recruitment via influencers, you can find local influencers. For example, in London, you can use the creators that post about fun things in London to do. You can also do the same for local groups. So for example, London vegan food pages on social media. If you are a charity with relatability to this group, you could then privately message them and set up partnerships where you do partnered charity events. You can also do the same with commercial brands, of course, who have similar interests for your own charity. So for example, if your charity focuses on animal rights, you could partner with vegan food brands and see if there's scope to work together, as that helps them too. So our next point on this slide still is hosting events. Ideally, these should always be partnered collaborations to help you get exposure to new people to be potential long-term volunteers. Hosting events such as fundraisers, community cleanup projects, or informational sessions can be a great way to help recruit volunteers. These events provide an opportunity for potential volunteers to learn about the charity and get involved in a meaningful way. For example, a charity that supports animal welfare could host a dog adoption event where volunteers help with things like managing the events, interacting with attendees, and caring for the animals. Partnerships with brands to leverage their audiences could be WAG, Borrow My Doggy, etc. And you could pitch to them to sponsor the events and potentially be able to get them to pay a small amount too towards the volunteers. Share success stories. Sharing success stories of how the volunteers have made a difference to the organisation's work can be a powerful way to recruit more volunteers. Potential volunteers are often motivated by the impact that they can have. So hearing about the positive differences that other volunteers have had can inspire them to get involved. For example, a charity could create a newsletter or a social media post highlighting the work of its volunteers and the positive impact that they have had on the organisation and the wider community. Of course, you can rely on utilising traditional recruitment methods. So many job ad boards you can post for free. And encourage referrals. Charities can also encourage current volunteers to help recruit new volunteers through referrals. This can be done through social media, by creating shareable assets such as posts or images showcasing the volunteers' experience with the charity, or by providing incentive for volunteers that then refer the new volunteers. By utilising these strategies and being proactive in recruiting volunteers, charities can build a strong team of dedicated individuals who are committed to making a positive impact in their communities. You could also create a volunteer community. That could be done via a WhatsApp group, and you can give group updates and private socials for volunteers. And the next slide. So continuing on how we can attract and recruit our volunteers, charities should, if possible, with their resource capacity, dedicate a role to volunteer management. They should ensure at least one person is solely responsible for recruiting and managing volunteers. An option for smaller charities is to use volunteers for that role, especially tasking a volunteer with project management skills to recruit other volunteers. This role could use a volunteer management system, which I will come back to in a moment, to streamline the process of volunteering. Many charities now are offering only in-person opportunities still, and they are neglecting an army of volunteers that are happy to embrace virtual volunteering. There are plenty of benefits to virtual volunteering. It allows people to find time to volunteer around full-time work, as many virtual tasks have flexible deadlines. Many volunteers can volunteer during lunch breaks if necessary, or even alter their working patterns to make space for the virtual volunteering. Virtual volunteering also saves the volunteer money, reducing costs on travel, food supplies, and other bits that in-person volunteering demands. It also allows a greater geographical reach, meaning that charities can recruit and onboard people from all around the country, perhaps even across the world, rather than just people within a sensible distance to the charity. It also provides ample opportunities for volunteers to grow their digital skills, from data entry to graphic design, from social media management to coding. The virtual volunteer can improve their CV and their skills and support people in need, all without leaving their home. We should explore micro-volunteering. If we just go back to the next slide. Thank you. So micro-volunteering describes a volunteer or team of volunteers completing small tasks that make up a larger project. So the benefits of micro-volunteering are huge. It's extremely empowering. Micro-volunteering allows volunteers to opt for tasks that really use their skill set. It benefits charities as it allows them to complete projects without having to go through rigorous onboarding processes. Micro-volunteering is particularly good for smaller tasks, but it is important to be aware of the drawbacks. One is safeguarding. Micro-volunteering naturally involves a shorter and less scrupulous onboarding process, so should not be used for any tasks that require effective safeguarding. Another issue surrounds complexity. Micro-volunteering should be used to complete simple tasks, ones that require minimal instructions and not complex tasks that require days of training. And then the last point on that slide is prioritizing flexibility. Offer flexible volunteer options. Many people are interested in volunteering, but may not have had a lot of free time. By offering flexible volunteer opportunities, such as short-term projects or the ability to volunteer from home, charities can make it easier to get people involved. For example, a charity could create a virtual volunteer program that allows people to contribute their time and skills remotely, such as by designing flyers or creating social media content. Whether that means flexibility of tasks, as seen with the shift to virtual volunteering, or flexibility of time, as seen with micro-volunteering, charities need to be open to adapting. The best way to recruit is to meet the needs and desires of the volunteers. So focus on flexibility. Ask potential volunteers about how they'd like to volunteer and find ways to accommodate. Remember that volunteers give their time without pay, so it is essential that charities work hard to ensure their experience is a positive one. So, volunteer management systems. What are they? They are electronic software systems to help streamline your processes and streamline your process managing volunteers. They are essential for keeping volunteers happy. The software supports the recruitment of volunteers, helps communicate and coordinate with volunteers, and does the scheduling for volunteers, and so much more. Volunteer management systems provide one centralized place for streamlining those processes. One of the biggest deterrents for would-be volunteers is too much complexity, too much paperwork, too much admin, too much effort outside of supporting the charity will make volunteering just seem less appealing. Various organisations use these systems, including the NHS, schools, museums, and so on. But these systems are particularly used in the charity sector, where managing volunteers is vital. Each volunteer management system offers different functionalities, often aimed at organisations of different sizes and usually at varying costs. But some common features include communication in one centralised place, functions that match jobs to skills, calendar and schedule management, easy to access volunteer profiles, self-service portals for volunteers, and features that support compliance within the organisation. Streamlining volunteer recruitment and management could save organisations time and money. This is because the technology allows them to automate various tasks, such as scheduling, and frees up time for other work. It can also reduce the cost of recruitment by improving office processes. Each volunteer management system will provide different benefits to different organisations, often depending on different objectives. But organisations can still expect some broad benefits, especially if they are still using pen and paper. Some of the benefits can include the ones on the screen, so improving the processes and operations, harnessing the best skills of volunteers. I think that's a really important one. Improves the retention rates of volunteers. The volunteer management system can help you meet your goals, regardless of its simplicity or complexity. On the next slide, we will take a look at some of the areas where volunteer management systems improve the processes of organisations. So how can my organisation be helped specifically? So now we know what they are, we know the benefits, but I'd love us to look at the areas where volunteer management systems improve specific processes. So first up is recruitment. It's the first step in volunteer management. Organisations need to recruit the right number of volunteers that they can then effectively manage and ensure that those volunteers possess the right skills for the job at hand. That's actually harder than it sounds. And volunteer management systems can help you create profiles that will attract the right skills and talents, create pages that can attract more volunteers, and keep all previous information in one centralised place to continually attract the right volunteers. In addition to that, the scheduling feature of a volunteer management system will help to improve and streamline the selection process. This means that charities are not just simply onboarding the right people, but they are onboarding the right people for the right time. Communication. After recruiting volunteers, charities need to engage with them in a way that feels welcoming, informative, and meaningful. One issue that organisations commonly face is the sheer number of channels which they communicate with volunteers. Some volunteers email, some use phones, some use WhatsApp, social media chats, whereas volunteer management systems ensure that communication is centralised. Systems can incorporate many of the above channels, so SMS, email, social media, etc., and transfer all of that information into one centralised place. In addition, some volunteer management systems allow users to automate communications, which can free up time for employees. Engagement. The system will help organisations to effectively manage engaging with volunteers who have the necessary talents to perform the tasks at hand. Volunteer management systems allow charities to match skills. Matching volunteers with appropriate tasks is mutually beneficial, allowing charities to improve productivity while ensuring that the volunteer is not taken for granted. In addition, volunteer management systems allow feedback from volunteers, which allows the organisation to then improve those internal processes and better engage with volunteers. Tracking numbers, hours, skills, recruitment, and attrition rates can be time-consuming when organisations do not have inbuilt reporting. Volunteer management systems often have tracking functionalities that can help support this. They can track volunteer efforts in one centralised place. They can generate reports that show patterns, illustrate the time spent on various projects, show improvements, demonstrate impact, and much more. Reports help volunteers quantify impact, which can be a massive incentive for them to continue volunteering. Tracking and reporting encourage long-term relationships, allowing the volunteer to feel useful to the community and valued by the charity. And lastly, recognition. Volunteer management systems can even help with recognition. Some systems, including ones that I will mention on the next slide, offer functionalities that promote volunteer recognition, such as thank you messages and online badges that recognise hard work that then appear on the system. So you might think I've done such a good job of selling them. Do we offer one? We don't. This is purely informative, and this is the research that we have done for this presentation on the top volunteer management systems. So I've popped those on the screen for you now. And there are plenty of other options on the market, all of which offer a variety of functionalities that may suit your charity more than the above options. But some additional research at this stage will prove hugely beneficial further down the line. But we've put some of the more well-known ones up there for you. For more information on volunteer management systems, we also have resources coming for you. So I think that Chiara is going to pop an article in the chat now that Charity Digital wrote on the various different volunteer management systems and the benefits of those. And just remember, we will be sending all the resources and the slides and the recording of this round afterwards. So I've popped that there and we will send that. So if we go on to the next slide, please. Yes, those are just resources, sorry. I was clearly trying to give a lot of resources. So yes, a quick roundup of what we learned, and then I will stop talking. So obviously we know it's not new information. Volunteers are an amazing asset to your organisation. There are also some truly wonderful benefits for the volunteers themselves. I loved the stats personally about the physical and the mental well-being. Prioritise flexibility. I think if the last, I keep saying 2 years, but it's 3 years now. If the last 3 years have taught us anything, it's that people want flexibility, people need that in their lives. So, you know, apply that when you're looking at attracting and recruiting your volunteers. Volunteer management systems are a great tool to invest in if you can. So that's what I'd say we've learned. So if we go on to the next slide. That's just a little bit about me. And then I will pass back to Liz and I'll stop talking now.
Lovely. Thank you, Alice, but don't go anywhere because we've got some questions. That was really great. Thank you so much for that. I noticed that there was a question just from Vicky, and as you're talking about sort of the volunteer systems there, can you give us an idea of the cost for these systems, please? That was in the chat, so I haven't gone to the Q&A yet.
Yes, no problem. I think that there have been some something just posted discussing the costs. However, that would be very different depending on your charity and also the functionality that you require, because I think most will have configurable features. So I would definitely advise doing the research. But firstly, before you do the research, make sure you write down, it's always my top tip because I've had to procure a lot of software in my role here at Charity Digital to help support us as a charity, and write down what functionality you need first before you then go to market and you do your research. So what do you need the system to do? Is it more that you need it for the reporting? Do you need it more for the recognition? And then what I would do is I would go to market, I would ask for demos of the systems or trials, and then I would weigh up the pros and cons of all those. That's sort of our approach of how we do things at Charity Digital. Not that we use a volunteer management system per se, but that's what I would do.
Okay, brilliant. And I just want to say thank you, David, and thank you, Cassie, for your comments on that and for posting the link in that. So that's really great. So let's go over to the Q&A. We've got a question here. We run a volunteer pool to advertise more ad hoc, more volunteering opportunity and events. Thought it would be a bit of a hit, but is surprisingly low interest at the moment. Any ideas or advice on promoting or gaining more subscribers? What do you think there, Alice?
Oh, yes,
it's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah. So I suppose I would ask if you've already posted about it on social media, but I would definitely do that. I would maybe think about an event as well. Think about the positioning and the offering and how you're advertising it. I would think about sharing it within your networks as well, sharing it with people that you know that work in the sector and seeing if it's of any interest to them and they could pass it on as a word of mouth. But yes, using digital platforms, there's Team London volunteering. I mean, word of mouth is the best marketing, but I really hope that improves and speeds up. And of course, we'll share more resources as well that hopefully can give some insights.
Great, thank you, Alice. So Do you have any tips on recruiting younger and student volunteers?
That's a really good question. So I would definitely refer back to the earlier point of partnering with schools and organisations. So if you have a keen interest in recruiting particularly students, I would think about approaching universities or colleges or schools and explaining the opportunities that you have coming up and seeing if they can spread the word and advertise that in the schools. But there are digital platforms as well. Again, you can use social media, but there's Team London volunteering, which is a big one. But using social media, LinkedIn might be a good one, reaching out to people directly. But definitely thinking about partnering with schools and universities for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we have one here. Are there any specific management systems that you've worked with before and would recommend, Alice?
No, actually, I haven't. We don't use one. I sort of thought while I was doing that pitch, this sounds very salesy. This sounds like I'm trying to help you with a volunteer management system. But we don't actually provide one. So I wouldn't be able to give a recommendation, unfortunately. I would refer to the earlier point of doing the research. You know, we got a new live chat in place at Charity Digital and SCRM, and we just wrote down what we wanted it to do. And then went to market, read a lot of reviews. I would again lean on your networks and find out if any other people are. Look at articles. I think Chiara has posted the article on a guide to volunteer management systems particularly. So that's a wonderful article written by someone at Charity Digital that did loads of research on it. So definitely. And sorry,
and maybe we can ask our audience if they have any recommendations, just to put them in the chat as well. If you're using it and you're enjoying it and you would recommend it, then go ahead and let us know what you're using.
Absolutely, yeah. That there will definitely be people, hopefully, that have some recommendations.
Yeah. We've got a question from Rachel. We have half a dozen volunteers at the moment, and we are just using Excel to manage them. At what point the number of volunteers should we consider a volunteer management system?
That's a really good question. Yeah. At what point does it get, unwieldy? At what point do you need to rely on software to help you? I think that's the point, isn't it? It's using software when the current method feels inefficient and unmanageable. And I think there can be no harm in doing some research on it. The obvious drawback of a volunteer management system is the cost associated with it. But what is the cost currently that you are spending in resource hours? So tracking that and tracking that capacity spent on that. And working out if that feels uncomfortable managing the volunteers. I don't think there's any, certain threshold you have to meet, but I'm sure that the differing systems will offer different functionality based on the size of your charity as well.
Yeah, actually, the next question fits in with what you're saying. It's a question about, is there any system that's free? And again, maybe we can ask the audience if they know of anything, that you can pop it in the chat.
Yes, yeah. I think someone said they have a demo booked with Assemble next week. They're currently using spreadsheets through networking. Assemble have been recommended by many NHS trusts and charities. Okay, so that's one. I don't know if we had that on our slide, but I'm sure that there will be a variety of costs associated, but a good way to work out if something feels right for you is to ask, and most software systems will provide this. Ask always ask for charity and not-for-profit pricing, and also ask for a 7-day or 2-week trial.
Yeah, and also the next question that John is asking as well, this is a good question, because are these systems, this is something that you have to research yourselves, but he's saying, is there a typical cost, and what are they usually charged per volunteer or per user? So that's something to put on your list to do when you're researching all of these.
Yes, definitely. I think Chiara reshared the article that is specifically on that. But I wouldn't know the specifics of per volunteer, and again, it would absolutely vary on the system, but the websites of these systems will will give the pricing structures. And Assemble are UK based. Good to know, Becky. Thank you.
Good to know. Good to know. Yes, thank you. That's a good tip there.
Nothing
Thank
like
you.
when you need some customer service for your system and something's gone wrong and you can't get hold of them because they might be based out the UK and the hours don't add up. So yeah.
Yeah, it's always good at UK. Okay, Christine is saying for small number of volunteers under 40, is it feasible to have a volunteer management system? Again, this goes back to your previous answer, Alice.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, as I was creating this presentation, I knew that the focus would be on the volunteer management systems. It just does feel like such a popular topic at the moment. But I would dedicate some time into tracking the hours that you're spending at the moment managing, attracting and recruiting volunteers, and work out, you know, what the cost of that is in resource and financial cost, and then go to market and look at what is on the marketplace. You can do that very easily by going to Google and searching. A good way of doing that would be top 5 volunteer management systems in the UK, but also we're sending all of this slideshow around to everybody that attended, with the recording of the webinar and the articles and resources attached. So do check those out and have a little Google.
Yeah, and also if you're not in the chat, have a look at the chat right now, because there's some really good advice and tips going on. So thank you to those that are posting in there. That's really good. Joe is asking, regarding volunteer management systems, are there some that would work across the whole organisation? So volunteer management, trustee communications, etc. That could be for the basis of an IT infrastructure with communications and calendar, etc. Again, that would be down to research, right? And just checking out each one.
Yeah, I would imagine so, though. I would imagine that's the kind of thing that they offer. But I would lament the point of ensuring that the system is fit for purpose for your organisation specifically, because software, you know, can have all sorts of configuration depending on the size of the organisation and your charity's specific demands and needs. So yeah, it comes back to looking up, you know, your own kind of requests and your needs, and then going to market.
Yeah, there's actually, David's just put something in the chat there about a Q&A and the whole organisation system. Okay. So that's a good link there to have a look at. And Kaz has also asked in the chat, how can the system help with supervision? So that'd be supervision of volunteers, I guess, keeping records of the supervision.
Yeah, so I suppose, do we mean tracking?
Yeah, maybe tracking and keeping, sort of time, would that be? Or I'm not too sure. Supervision is sort of quite an in-depth sort of area, isn't it, to look at? Yeah, it's if you mean tracking and reporting, then definitely. I think that's the selling point of most of the volunteer management systems, is that it's meant to get you off of Excel and using an electronic system that can run these reports far easier. But maybe if you could specify what you mean by supervision, that would be great. Yeah, that would be great. And Christina's also asked, is it worth the effort of maintaining, collecting all the data for a small number of volunteers? I guess it really depends on your resources and your time, doesn't it, at the end of the day? Maybe others can just share their experience on that as well. What do you think, Alice?
And how much your organisation is going to grow. If it is so small and the pool of volunteers that you use is so small, you might not want an electronic system that tracks patterns and tracks time spent on various projects, because there just might not be a need for it. So while volunteer management systems are an incredibly useful tool to improve efficiency and streamline processes, then they won't be for everybody, because there won't be the need for every single organization to have one. And you know, if the saying is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, if your current way of doing it is fine and it's working for you, then there's no need to explore that, I wouldn't say. Especially if you've got such a small amount of volunteers. Kaz has come back and she said supervision in terms of volunteers having their say in feedback. So that was her response to the question that we posed about the supervision there. Yes,
That's interesting, gaining feedback.
Many of the volunteer management systems provide a way for the volunteers to communicate with the organisation in providing feedback, so that then the organisation can improve their internal processes. So that's a really good question and point. But yes, I believe most would offer that, and the ones I've looked at have. Okay,
great. How can you get volunteers on short notice?
Good question. So you can obviously use your social media to ask, or use your kind of internal comms, however you do that. A useful resource is Reach Volunteering's Recruitment Hub, which has over 2,000 opportunities available, and it's a helpful resource for any charity. So that's Reach Volunteering's Recruitment Hub. I would imagine most people have heard of it. The app Volunteer Mark can also help charities recruit quickly for short-term events. So that's another really good one. I don't know if we could pop this in the chat potentially.
Yeah, that would be good if we could pop it in the chat, just so everyone could see it.
And we actually have written an article on this as well on our site. So I'll ask Chiara to share that as well. So how to get volunteers on short notice. And that's Volunteer Mark, that's the app. And the hub is Reach Volunteering's Recruitment Hub.
It's amazing, all the apps and all the hubs that we've got nowadays, isn't it? There's just so much help out there.
Yeah, it always impresses me that if I need a flat pack built or a shelf put up, I can just order a stranger to my home on an app. And
I know, it's amazing.
That afternoon, it's a funny world we're living in, isn't it?
It is a funny world. Okay, so how essential is the reimbursement policy? What level of travel expenses, expense reimbursement would be appropriate?
Oh, that is a good one.
Now, there'll be guidelines for this, wouldn't there, for the volunteer sector?
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely, I mean, please feel free to use the chat to give your insights here, because I would imagine there will be guidelines. So we will put that one to the chat if anybody can.
Yeah, we'll put that one to the chat.
But we're also happy to include that in our resources, which we will send out once this presentation is done. We'll send out all of the supporting resources.
Fantastic. Do you have any advice on the language we should use when recruiting and responding with volunteers, rather than the language set we might use for staff? For example, using the word task instead of job, and do you think this enhances relationships with volunteers?
What a great question.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
Oh, that's a very good question. I definitely think there's ways to attract volunteers that, you know, is through your language. Like we learned, you know, today, it's flexibility and providing them flexibility, and you know, letting them know the impact that they've had these are great incentives for volunteers to keep coming back and doing impactful work. In terms of language, I'm sure we'll have an article or a resource on that.
And if not, we can do one, Alice.
Yeah, we can, because
that would be a great article to concentrate on.
Yeah. Because
I think we've got to make a note of that.
Yeah. So I think somebody just said in the chat, don't say job or task or work. They are all opportunities. That's a great comment. Thank you.
Great comment. Thanks, David. Yeah, and we've got Nikki that's also posted some really good comments there. Thank you. We tempt ours with chocolate biscuits. Yeah.
That would sway me, Paul.
That sounds good to me. Another question. Do you have information on evaluation projects regarding volunteer roles and a manager's views on volunteering?
I'm just going to read that one in the Q&A.
Yeah.
Information on evaluation projects regarding volunteers, roles and managers' views on volunteering. I'm not sure if we do already. We may do. I will ask our content team to have a look on the site, and we can include that What are you aware of anything, Liz?
No, I'm not aware of anything. I'm just trying to think, and no, I'm not. So I think we really need to come back to you on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll take that one offline. Thank you,
Yeah.
Michael. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that question. That's one for us to look into later on. So how to maintain a good relationship with your volunteers? Well, chocolate biscuits is a good start, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. They go a long way. So I think, yeah, a lot of that hopefully has been covered. I think I have to keep coming back to flexibility. I think that post-COVID world, in the working world, is extremely different. I know because I've hired multiple people in the last year for my team, and the job market's been really, really, really strange. So we have to accept that we are living in a different world after COVID, and flexibility is taken really seriously for most people. It's their biggest priority. We're seeing such a huge increase in people going for fully remote roles and hybrid roles. People don't want to be spending their time commuting and traveling in. So I think having a good relationship looks like offering flexibility, whether that's through the micro volunteering or virtual opportunities. And I think helping to upskill them, finding out what they want to do, finding out their needs and accommodating those as well. And always showing gratitude and recognition. I think that's really important as well.
Yeah, we've got a comment on that as well, thanking them, and that could be with an event or a postcard or a mini gift or an email on Volunteers Week. Thanks, just appreciation goes a long way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so
Kaz has to go and volunteer. Well, thank you very much for joining.
Fantastic. We are trying to develop a volunteer community by looking at branding for our area and running a project with our organizations that have volunteers. Any advice?
So I'm just reading the question again. So developing a volunteer community. So one thing you could do is host a social for the volunteers. I think having, we spoke about earlier, having a WhatsApp group chat, all allowing the volunteers to introduce themselves. And as we saw earlier, a massive benefit of volunteering is making new friends as well. So I think, having an event to introduce people, having a social WhatsApp group to introduce people is a great way of getting that started and getting people to get to know one another. I hope that answered it.
When I was volunteering, I volunteered with quite a lot of organizations, and one of them was great because we had a monthly event. But of course, times have changed, but that could be hybrid or that could be online. But
bring back quizzes.
Yes. Any ideas to celebrate our volunteers on Volunteer Day to show appreciation? Gosh, what would be sort of some top ideas? Can you help us out in the chat as well? What have you done?
That's a great one. Oh, that is a good one. We'll probably have an article.
Actual awards and certificates we've got.
Oh, volunteer.
Invite people.
I was about to say an award.
Invite people to coffee mornings to celebrate achievements. Having a barbecue, a picnic. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Giving awards, certificates, recognition is huge. You could make donations to an organisation of their choice as well. Oh, cream tea.
Cream tea.
I'll be volunteering at your organisation.
I hope that's with all the trimmings.
Well, the old age argument that I have is it cream first then jam, or is it jam first then cream?
Well, I'm not going to tell you, so I won't show my age. Yeah, we've got some brownies, we've got some room to reward, fish and chip lunch. There's some really good
that's
ones.
so lovely. There's a photo shoot and each had a portrait taken that they could
I like that. That's really nice. Yeah. A collected poem. Handmade TV cards. Oh no, not TV. I read that wrong, sorry. Thank you cards. And we've got, yes, thank you. We've got,
thank you, Kiara.
Thank you, Kiara. In the back end, you've put your link in there. That's great. How to keep volunteers happy. There you go. You got a link. There's no excuse now. Okay. Have you got any thoughts or advice regarding legacy, ensuring skills are retained?
Is that on?
That's on the Q&A. So legacy, I would assume that would be as a volunteer is doing a very good job with a certain skill to keep that skill on moving forward if the volunteer leaves. Is that, am I understanding that?
We'll wait to come back. So we'll wait to hear the clarification around that, Vicky, and move to the next one.
Okay, for the benefit of the volunteers and organisations, Vicky has just elaborated more on that. Thank you. Christine, to support volunteers who are not confident with IT, there is a great charity called AbilityNet, which gives free support and info. Yeah, they're great, AbilityNet. So we've got, have we got anything in the chat yet from Vicky? No. So Brian is asking, do you have any experience or insights how a VMS would manage employers who are also volunteers for your organisation, i.e. or e.g. how to avoid managing their details in two places?
So I think that's the wonderful thing about volunteer management systems is that they keep everything centralized in one place, and the idea is that they streamline those processes. So software, I always say, as someone who's worked in software for 9 years, it should improve your processes and make you more efficient and not hinder that. So there would be no reason to be keeping that information in two different places when it could all be centralized. Hope I've answered that question right. But again, I think it comes back to, I must keep saying, I really think it comes back to the point of which system you choose. And I would encourage people to get demos, to look at the volunteer management article that we have on our website, and also to do that research yourself and get some demos from these systems.
Yeah, and there's a few comments I can see in the chat. So thank you. Vicky has come back. If they have gained new skills and improved well-being and the staff time invested in this, yeah, it's a lot of staff time invested, how to keep this going and not to lose it when the project ends, or even when the volunteer decides to leave?
I think it's about keeping them engaged as well, isn't it? And keeping them, yeah, because you're not always going to have the projects for the people that you've got the skills. But I think it's about keeping in contact with your volunteers. Like we've said before in this conversation so far, keeping your volunteers happy is really important. We posted an article in the chat, which is all about how to keep your volunteers happy. There was just a really, really nice idea that I liked, that I hope you don't mind me sharing, David, that says you can help people with their own interests. So, you know, I heard you like model making, for example. One of our other volunteers runs a model club. Let me introduce you. So, you know, in terms of retaining people's skills and getting them to stay with your organisation, even if you don't have the projects that require those skills, I think it's about keeping those happy and retaining that relationship with them.
Because you do, I mean, there is a threat that if the volunteer has so much information and so much training and then they decide to go, then there's a void, isn't there? And there's a space there that, yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, that's it for our questions. Amazing.
Excellent. And we're nearly at time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alice. We're nearly at the time. Thank you for taking the time to do this presentation. It's been really insightful and impactful, and it's been great to see all your comments and your tips and advice, so thank you. Just a quick heads up for our audience before you go, we've got another webinar coming up on the 26th of January, a step-by-step guide to writing a great digital strategy. And also a reminder that we've got our Be More Digital conference. It's coming up pretty fast on the 9th of March. You can find out more about this looking on our website. It's going to be a hybrid event this year. And if you are interested in our products we offer, then please go over to our website as well, and you can see everything that we have available there in its details. So that's it, Alice. Thank you. Thank you to your audience for joining us, and we will see you again very soon. So it's goodbye for now.
Thank you all. It was lovely to connect with you, and I will hopefully we will hear from you soon, and we will share those resources. Thank you so much, Liz and Chiara.
Thank you. Bye.